What's good? Brian Tong here. iOS 26 Beta 3 just dropped today, so we'll show you what's new 2 weeks after they dropped the second beta. Is Apple working on an all-new affordable MacBook with an iPhone chip inside? We'll break it down. Plus, we know that Apple's working on a foldable iPhone for 2026, but is the foldable iPad still happening? All right, so let's start with iOS 26 Beta 3, even if my last video started off with the second beta. And so far, the changes have been mostly pretty cosmetic. I've been calling this updated look frosted glass, and you're really seeing how Apple has heard what we said and made iOS 26 generally easier to read with changes to their liquid glass design. There are plenty of examples here, like the Apple Music app and also the Podcast app. What was once glass is now more like it was in iOS 18. They've really tuned up the opaqueness, maybe even making it a solid backing, but it does make it a lot more easy to read. Even something as subtle as the Messages app. I had the search bar over the same message, and you can see how they have made the search bar less transparent in Beta 3 on the left side. Now here on the Notification Center, using Apple's Clownfish wallpaper, it doesn't look much different between the first beta and the third beta, but it's not the easiest to read here. The app library also pretty much looks the same between the different versions, so that hasn't changed much. I think there is a place in between all these changes, maybe for a slider to select the intensity of the effect or not, what would be the best thing for the user. But would Apple actually do that? That's the bigger question. There are now also 4 new color options for the default iOS wallpaper in Halo, Dusk, Sky, and Shadow, but I like the purple one, of course. Now, if you put them in dark mode, they have even more dramatic differences between the 4 wallpapers when you look at them, so that's kind of neat. Now, in Control Center, again, it's slightly more frosted looking in Beta 3 versus the original beta. Also, the blue and green colors for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and AirDrop are brighter and more similar to iOS 18, again, to really help it pop off the screen. Versus you have those darker colors and the really transparent, glassy look from the original beta on the right side. Now, the Maps app gets support for fog advisories when using Apple Maps offline and reportedly helps with better alerts for commute delays. And then here in the bookmark section of Safari, the design has been tweaked and looks a little different as well. Now, we know there will be more changes, but that's just some of the stuff that has been found just hours after it released. But for now, mostly cosmetic tweaks. And we are expecting the first public beta sometime this month like it was last year. But my recommendation, which has always been the same, is do not install this on your primary device. You have been warned, but you're going to do what you want anyways. All right, I've done my part. Now, I've been gone on travel and shoots the past couple weeks, so let's catch up a little and talk MacBooks. Because Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo reports that Apple is planning to launch a low-cost MacBook that's powered not by an M-series chip, but the A18 Pro chip that's currently found in the iPhone 16 Pro. Kuo said it will have a 13-inch display, and this will be the first time that a Mac is powered specifically by an iPhone chip. Now, I don't want to get too worked up over this idea of whether it's a phone chip or a laptop chip. They are both built on the ARM architecture, with the M-series chips designed for more intensive and demanding tasks that serve the needs of a Mac, where the A-series chips are more optimized for power and efficiency requirements. Both of them extremely capable chips, and testing and real-world use has backed that up. But when I hear this product strategy, I'm actually not surprised, right? Think about this. Apple is using another play out of the old classic Tim Cook playbook by utilizing the components that you already have to offer something at an even lower price. Now, part of me says, that's a smart business decision. And the other part is thinking, this is not the most exciting thing that Apple could do when they need some new bangers for products. That's what we've been wanting. And based on the reports, it offers nothing special from a technology standpoint. But I will say this does serve a specific group of people. Maybe it's not the cutting edge super techie that's watching tech YouTube videos all the time, but it's really their family members. Or could this be a sub $500 laptop for the education market? Okay, let's not get too crazy because this is Apple we're talking about. So what about $799? Maybe something close to that. Now, the current 13-inch MacBook Air, that's the lowest priced Mac starting at $999 today. There was a time where there was a push for iPad and keyboards for the education market, but Apple has still not reclaimed the dominance that it once had in education because of the rise of Chromebooks, for better or for worse, depending on who you ask. And I've said it multiple times here on this channel, but I've been asking Apple to bring back the super portable and super thin 11-inch MacBook Air. It was amazing. It was ahead of its time with its stellar design, but it was also underpowered and got warm a lot. So I think Apple's A18 Pro chipset could really make something like that sing today, or you could do what a lot of people are doing to fill that space by buying an 11-inch iPad Air with a keyboard case. And then you got the newest iPad OS 26 changes that make that idea even more compelling when it officially comes out this fall. Now, Quo also reports that this new MacBook could come in new colors like yellow and pink alongside blue and silver. This is just a render of an idea of what this reported entry-level MacBook could look like with iMac-like colors. And I do know it will bother me if all these new amazing colors are just for this entry-level A18 MacBook. Let's not do this, because even Mama Tong had to tell Apple to bring brighter and bolder colors to the Pro iPhones when we went phone shopping together. Yeah, Mama Tong knows. So Apple, I know you do listen to us at times, so we will see what happens. This new rumored A18 chip MacBook is expected to be mass produced in the fourth quarter of 2025 or the first quarter of 2026. All right, let's switch gears a little and talk iPhone 17 Pro, because we have a few new things to talk about. We've heard reports that the new 17 Pro lineup might have an aluminum frame, and a recent post on the Chinese platform Weibo leans into that again. It will reportedly have not only an aluminum frame, but a glass section on the back of the device to keep the MagSafe and Qi wireless charging support. Now, this combination of part aluminum and part glass design was first reported by The Information's Wayne Ma back in November. And if you didn't remember, Apple has typically used an aluminum frame on its lower-end non-Pro iPhones each year. Aluminum is lighter and cheaper than the previous titanium or stainless steel frames in Pro models, but we'll have to wait and find out the reasoning behind this when it releases. Another expected design change is that Apple is planning to reposition the Apple logo on the new 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max. Apple will not only be shifting this to a two-tone material design of metal and glass, but that new camera bar design takes up a whole lot more space. So it would make sense for the logo to move instead of keeping it in place and just looking off-centered in relationship to the new design. Now, Apple leaker Majin Buu posted the images here to show what the new look might be with a MagSafe case on both the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max, with the logo being now centered on the back piece of glass. So it just might take a little time to get used to until you put a case on your phone that completely covers it, which most people do right when they buy it. All right, another post on Weibo from leaker Instant Digital claims that the iPhone 17 Pro Max will feature the biggest battery ever in an iPhone at 5,000 milliampere hours, and compared it with models as far back as the iPhone 11 Pro. Now, the current iPhone 16 Pro Max has a battery capacity of 4,676 milliampere hours. That's about 33 hours of battery life in daily use. So this larger battery could bring an extra hour or two of battery life, along with improvements from Apple's own A19 chip and the more power-efficient Qualcomm Snapdragon X80 modem. Okay, let's talk some folding things, and I recently covered Apple's plans for their first foldable phone that's targeting to be released next year, but there have also been plenty of stories that Apple was also working on a foldable 20-inch iPad or Mac size-like product. Now, according to a report from Digitimes, Apple's decided to halt work on this large-screen foldable iPad. They report that manufacturer difficulties, increased production expenses for foldable display technology, and lukewarm consumer demand for larger foldables were some of the reasons to put a pause on this project. And I think it's actually a smart decision, because let's just see how Apple's foldable phone is received by the public first, and then see if there's enough interest, especially with its rumored $2,000 to $2,500 price tag. Yeah, that's gonna make people think twice. Now, this doesn't mean this is a permanent decision and Apple could come back to it, but all those things are really working against it right now. I'd still love to see what the prototype looks like, of course, and with iPadOS 26's new windowing system and multitasking, I'm all on board for an even bigger display iPad. I've been asking for it. Now, people also are occasionally asking me what's going on with AirTags. So what is going on with them? Well, according to a recent 9 to 5 Mac report, AirTag 2 is planning to release in September or later this year. The iOS 18.6 beta code hinted that the software could be compatible with this new AirTag when it's ready for launch. Now, according to reports, the new AirTag 2 is expected to have a new ultra wideband chip with 3 times the tracking range compared to the original one. There will be a new alert for both low and very low battery levels. You can already see this in the Find My app, but I only found that out when I would look inside the app, so that's going to be helpful. Plus, it will still have a replaceable battery and not a built-in one, so we'll wait for this fall to see how this all comes together. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this video. If you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get all my latest videos when they drop. And if you want more of that Apple goodness, you can check out my weekly Apple Bits XL audio podcast with the latest stories and special guests. Plus, you can support all my content with an ad-free version of the podcast, early access to my content, and exclusive content at patreon.com/BrianTong. So thanks so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace and love.